All right, number 2, we actually want to find potential zeros again. So remember, it is P divided by Q, plus or minus. So P is the number at the back, which was 3. And Q is the leading coefficient, which is 4. Okay, so we're going to list the factors of 3 and 4 and divide the top by the bottom. So it's going to be a little bit different this time since we have more than one number. So factors of 3 are just 1 and 3. That's it. 3 is prime, so we only get 1 and 3. Factors of 4 are 1 and 4, and then 2 times 2. So 1, 2, and 4. Okay, so when we begin to list the possible zeros, we're going to start with these whole numbers. So 1 divided by 1 gives us 1. Okay. Positive or negative. 3 divided by 1 gives us 3. Okay, so we get those two terms. Now we're going to divide each of these by 2. 1 divided by 2 will give us a half. 3 divided by 2 will give us 3 halves. And then we're going to do 1 divided by 4, which will give us 1/4. And then 3 divided by 4, which will give us 3/4. So this will be all your possible. Now sometimes when you do these, you will have repeats. So like if you, let's just say we had a 4 up here. When I did 4 divided by 4, just for example, that will be equal to 1, which we already have 1 listed. So that means you won't need to list that again. So be careful of repeats. Sometimes they'll repeat. But this will be our list. Okay, so I'm going to write those down or type them in and separate with a comma. 1, 3, 1/2, 1/2, then 3 halves, and then we have 1/4, and then we have 3/4. All right, and then next we want to actually use division to find all of them. Okay. So again, I'm going to graph it. And get an approximation of these zeros. Y equal clear. And then we'll do 4x to the 4th minus 16x raised to the 3rd plus 11x squared plus 4x minus 3 on the graphic, and we'll kind of get an estimate about where these might be. Okay, so hard to tell. I'm going to zoom in, zoom to, okay, so it looks like, let's just trace this. There's my cursor. It looks like that might be a negative 1/2, okay? And if I go to the other side, it looks like it's probably going to be positive 1/2, so it's in between positive 1 and 2. Yeah, looks like maybe negative 1/2 and a positive 1/2, and then this other one looks like it goes right over 1. Okay, so I'm going to write those down. It looks like positive 1/2, negative 1/2, and 1. Okay, so those are where it looks like it crosses the x-axis. We're going to verify those by doing synthetic division. So I would rather do the whole number first. Okay, so we're going to use the number 1. And then we're going to list the coefficients of our polynomial. So I'm going to list 4, and then negative 16, and then positive 11, and then positive 4, and then negative 3. Bring your first number straight down, and then multiply by 1. Sorry, this is 4. What am I doing? Bring 4 straight down. 1 times 4 is 4. subtract because they're different signs, we get negative 12. 1 times negative 12 still gives us negative 12. Subtract these two, we get a negative 1. 1 times negative 1 gives us negative 1. Combine these two, we get a positive 3. And then 1 times 3 gives us 3. And then we combine those, we get a 0. So anytime you end up with 0, that means it goes in there evenly. So 1 is definitely a 0. Okay, so once we have 1, 0, since we have these others listed down, we can just continue. We don't have to start over. We can continue from where we left off. Okay, so this is my remaining polynomial. This time I want to check 1/2. Okay, so 1/2 is going to be my number. And we're going to do the same process. Bring the first term straight down, which is 4. And we're going to multiply by 1, divide by 2. So 4 times 1 is 4, divided by 2 is 2. So we'll write a 2 over here. Combine these two, we get negative 10. And then multiply this by 1/2. So we get negative 5. Combine these two, we get negative 6. And then multiply this by 1/2. And then we get negative 3, and then we get 0. Okay, so 1/2 also works. Now, whenever you do a fraction, if you want to write down your resulting polynomial, these were all divided by 2. You also have to divide your polynomial by 2 to get your remaining polynomial. So what numbers we're going to be doing the last time we do this? We have to divide by 2, okay, because we're dividing by 2 here. And this leaves you with 2, negative 5, and negative 3. So I'm going to do it one more time with negative 1/2, okay? Negative 1/2 with these remaining numbers. And if we get a 0 here, that also tells us negative 1/2 was the other 0. So bring down the first number straight. Bring down 2. And then we'll multiply by negative 1/2. So this will become negative 1. And combined we get negative 6. Negative 1/2 times negative 6 will turn to a positive 3. And convert that, we get 0. Okay, so we found out 1/2, and negative 1/2 all work. The remaining resulting polynomial, divide by 2 to get that. We get that 1, and we get a negative 3. Okay, so we started out with x to the 4th power, okay? Once we divided out the 1, we end up with x to the 3rd power. We divide out this, we end up x squared, and we divide out this, we end up with a single x. So this polynomial is saying that x minus 3 is equal to 0. So solving this last one, we would get that x is equal to 3. Okay, so this would be all of our zeros. They would be 1, 1/2, negative 1/2, and 3. Okay, pending we have made no mistakes. I'm going to list all of those here. 1, no order, no particular order, just in the order I have them worked out. Negative 1/2, and then we got positive 3.